years you've been here, Larry?
Starting in the summer of '86.
Summer of '86. I know he looks like he's 25, but he has been here a while. So that's great. So if you have any legal questions, feel free to ask Larry. And a big shout out to Marina and BFast TV back there. BFast, do you want to say a word or two, Marina, about what you guys do? They do a great job of live streaming and corporate stuff, and so.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I'll be very short because I need to take care of my camera. So what we do, we help CryptoMondays to reach bigger audience. For those who cannot come in person to see and to listen to great panelists, they can just see in the offices or at home and just watch the panel discussion in live. So we help events to live stream in HD quality because we use professional cameras, and also use a software that allows you to live stream on multiple platforms, like of course all social media, Facebook, YouTube, including your website as well. But if you want to your attendees to pay for the content, we also can help you to build a paywall for those. So yeah, if you have any questions, just you can reach out. I'll be there till the end. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Marina. Awesome. So I want to introduce you all to Jodee, who will be our moderator, and he will take it away from here. Hold on. 1 second.
Sorry. Before the event, one of our panelists wants to demo the Nifty product. So yeah, we'll start here.
It's pretty nifty, guys. That's why we called it that.
Flanking difficulties.
There we go. Does that work? Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out. So I'm Duncan. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Nifty Gateway. And I just want to talk a little bit about our new product. Thanks so much, Andy, for letting me do this really quickly. Our goal is to solve the user experience problems of crypto, and specifically of NFTs. And I'm sure you guys know that those are all really significant and really holding back further adoption. And that's our goal of Nifty Gateway. We want to get 1 billion people collecting Nifties because we think it's a really cool technology. We're really passionate about it. So we just announced the Nifty wallet, and it's live on mainnet. So I just wanted to show it to you guys really quickly. And if you're building a Nifty product, or if you want to build something for a mainstream audience, I would love to tell you more about it. And so just come find me after this, and I'll quickly show you how it works. So our view is that anyone should be able to come to a website and buy a Nifty the same way that they would shop on Amazon, for example, because that's the experience users expect nowadays. So we just wanted to make something really simple. This is our example game. The whole idea is you collect people from Silicon Valley technology history. And this is what it looks like when you're buying a pack of these mystery cards. So you're just on our website. You click buy. Oh, and it says, I have to sign in. And for anyone who's used MetaMask, this would be the point in the user experience journey where someone has to go install MetaMask and then send cryptocurrency to the MetaMask. And this is where you get those like 99% drop-off rates that other Nifty projects have been getting. But here, I'm already logged into my Nifty Gateway account, but I just click confirm, and I'm signed in, and then I can buy a pack. And it's on the Rinkeby network, so it's not actually paying any cryptocurrency. But I would just enter my credit card with one click, click confirm, and then that's all it takes. The Nifties are on the way. And the really cool part about this is even after I've bought them with the credit card, your users never have to get cryptocurrency in order to build an experience. So yeah, that's just a really quick demo. I'll keep it short because I think the panel is the most important thing. But if you guys are working on an NFT project, come talk to me afterwards. And if you know anyone who is and wants to reach a mainstream audience, just shoot me an email. My email is duncan@niftygateway.com. So thank you very much. I'm excited to get started.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name's Jodee Rich, Wing Dude on Twitter. I'm the CEO of PeopleBrowsr, and I'd like to introduce our amazing panelists. You've met Duncan. Duncan is one of the smartest startup guys in the NFT space that I know. We run a conference called NFT.NYC, and Duncan, amongst 150 other people, applied to speak at the conference in February. And he was voted in the top 5 speakers for the conference. So thank you very much for being with us tonight. And I'd like to introduce Tara. Tara is absolutely the most dynamic, incredibly smart person in this space who comes with knowledge from big brands and licensing. So we're really lucky to have Tara here. And Tara was my favorite speaker at the NFT.NYC event in February. And then we have Andrew Beal. I think...
I thought you were going to save that for me, but I also spoke, so I know you can't.
Well, I met Andrew in Hong Kong. Didn't I meet you in Hong Kong in July? And Andrew said to me, "Oh, I'm from EY," and I immediately expected to have to explain to a institutional business guy stuff about NFTs, but in fact, Andrew is way ahead of everyone in his space, and he's one of the very few people I know who works for a very big company, who advises big companies, who knows a lot about our space. So we're very lucky to have you on the panel tonight too. So if you guys want to sit down or stand up, you're very welcome. My panel style is that I really like to involve you guys. We did this in New York a few weeks ago, and we had a lot of audience participation. And the very first thing I said to the New York audience was, does everyone know what an NFT is? And so to this group, does everyone know what an NFT is? So half of you don't know what an NFT is. Fair enough. Sorry, I'm a New Yorker. I'm originally a New Yorker, but I do say some Australian things. Fair enough is an Aussie thing, because I was born in New York and I was dragged off to Australia when I was 2 years old. That's why I speak like this. Maybe the first thing we'll do is talk about what is an NFT. Who put their hand up when they knew what an NFT was? Who can do a 30-second explanation of what an NFT is? Any volunteers? Go ahead. Tamagotchi on the blockchain. Excellent. Okay, anyone else? A digital collectible. That is an awesome answer. That's really good. Can you just stand up and say that louder for everyone? Awesome, thank you. What is your name? Thank you very much. So, panelists, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk about what projects we're working on with NFTs, and then we're going to talk about what we think the next projects are going to be over the next couple of years. That's my plan anyway, and then I'll be guided by the audience as to what you'd like us to continue to talk about. So let me start. I have 2 hats. We run a very big event in New York every year called NFT.NYC. And the reason we do that is because we wanted to bring together all of the thought leaders in the NFT space. And we did that, and that's how I met some of you. We were then invited to participate in Consensus, which is Blockchain Week in New York. And some of the managers from Consensus came to NFT.NYC, and they saw one of the things that we were doing. One of the crazy things we did is we put NFT projects up on a huge billboard in Times Square, because no one in Times Square knows what an NFT is, and so we were guaranteed that everyone who saw the billboard would actually learn something. And then we did something else. We created an NFT swag bag. What is an NFT swag bag? Well, you all go to conferences and you get a plastic bag with all sorts of junk in it that you normally throw out as you walk out the door of the conference. So we wanted to create a virtual swag bag of virtual assets. And we managed to convince the team from Consensus that we should be able to reach out to their 100 sponsors. They had 100 people sponsoring the blockchain event in New York last week. And we reached out to every one of them only 3 weeks before the conference. And 60 of them said, yes, we would love to put an NFT in the NFT swag bag that was going to every one of the 2,000 attendees. So we made over 200,000 tokens, and of the 2,000 odd attendees, 1,200 of them claimed their NFT swag bag that contained CryptoKitties. Everyone heard of CryptoKitties? Right? So the CryptoKitty Dapper Labs gave us 1,200 kitties to put in the swag bag. Neon District gave us thousands of NFTs from their game to put in the swag bag. And then the other sponsors gave us things from redeemable tokens for polo shirts, hats. And then there was a really fun thing, which was, everyone at a very big conference, everyone wants to talk to the speaker. So we had a token that converted to meet the speaker. And that was randomly allocated to people. So we had this really fun swag bag. 1,200 people claimed it. Any guesses as to what percentage of those people had Ethereum wallets? Right. And it was very topical for us because our NFT project is on Stellar and Ethereum. And the Ethereum community all said, why are you using Stellar? And we said, because Ethereum processes slowly and is expensive. And I said to them, and I bet most of the people from Consensus don't have Ethereum wallets. How many people here have an Ethereum wallet? Oh, you guys are really cool. Right. Any guesses as to what percentage of the Blockchain Week audience that claimed the bags actually had an Ethereum wallet? Exactly. Only 10% of the people who actually claimed a swag bag had an Ethereum wallet. So this was a really good thing for us and for the conference because so many people learnt about what it was to have a digital wallet and so many people learnt about what it was to actually have an NFT. So we now have many other events who want to do this swag bag. And my other hat is running a company called NFT Cred that creates NFTs for brands very quickly, puts them into bundles, and then distributes them to normal people to use. That's my intro. Duncan, I think you've told everyone what you do. If you want to add anything. Okay. Andrew, tell them what you do at EY.
So I'm always surprised that people don't think about blockchain when they think of EY, because I'm going to lift this up because we've been working in the space formally as a blockchain team since early 2016, but we're not as good at getting the word out about our work as we should be. So for anybody that thinks about EY as an accounting or a tax or an audit firm, we are that. But we also have a blockchain team with that is now hundreds of people around the globe. The majority of which are engineers, actually, which I'm really proud to say, and we're doing some really cool work.
Awesome, thank you, Tara.
Hi. So we at Rarebits are known for our marketplace, which is similar to OpenSea. It seems like you guys at Nifty Gateway might even be integrated into OpenSea, so we have something similar. It's like eBay for digital goods, but we are working on a project, which is what I am working on with entertainment IP that is a mobile app and not a product that's necessarily just about being integrated into our web experience. And so we're all about mass market, scalable, consumer-friendly, entertainment-based experiences with non-fungible tokens.
And you were telling me before, when we spoke a couple of days ago, that you don't want users to even realize that it's blockchain. You want them to have a great experience.
We don't want Apple to realize that it's blockchain.
Delete that from the recording.
Yeah. You know, technology, it's really hard to educate consumers on technology, which is why people have, you know, celebrity spokes, you know, men and women to educate and to incentivize people to go through these hoops with technology. Technology is not necessarily a consumer-friendly thing. Like trying to explain what NFTs are to my parents is very difficult. So, but it's really easy to connect with somebody on a brand or a product that they love. And so if you can make it all about the experience of what the product is, then the technology just enhances that experience. And so they don't necessarily need to know what the blockchain is, and we don't need to introduce them to that up front. I come from Zynga. We're all about you know, funnel optimization, and you're in a long-term relationship with a player or a fan or a user or a customer, and you don't need to clobber them, you know, in your first-time user experience with like, what is a blockchain and what is a non-fungible token and what are all these value props, and I'm going to value prop you to death and you're going to understand why this is so cool. Like, you don't need to do that. You have a long time to spend with them, and if you get them to fall in love with your product, if they want to continue going deeper, then they can learn at an appropriate time with things that are contextually relevant. So it doesn't need to all be at once.
It's all about adoption, isn't it? I think the industry has been fairly sad about the adoption that we've seen so far. And Duncan, when you were giving the demonstration, it was awesome that it was really just one click, wasn't it? What are some of the features that you tried to build into your wallet to improve adoption?
Right. So, I mean, our view is we really think about it as like users have very limited attention, and every like, you know, UX is like an additional cost you impose on users, and we're really aiming for mass market adoption. We're aiming for, you know, hundreds of millions and 1 billion people collecting NFTs. You know, for that to happen, you really need to get sort of a viral adoption loop, and every single viral adoption loop we've seen has had very low UX costs. I think, you know, a lot of people are disappointed about low adoption, but then you look at the fall off rates of something like MetaMask. This is something that you know, the founder of Pixera told me. He's like, MetaMask is like it's like a fox guarding your website, protecting it from getting users. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of accurate, because the data is like 97%, 99% of people, you know, don't want to go install a MetaMask. But I really do think that there's a danger, because you know, if a user, if they don't have a wallet, if they're not educated about what's going on, will they even prefer a blockchain at all? I mean, will they, you know, is there really any advantage? You know, at some point you run up against the line of, you know, why even bother using this technology? Why even not use a centralized server? So our view has always been at Nifty Gateway, we said, we want to, you know, get the full blockchain experience, educate people, you know, tell them what's going on, not overwhelm them, like Tara said, you know, but just say like, hey, it's neat, it's a digital good based on a blockchain, and then make it as simple as possible for them to, you know, to do everything, reduce the complexity. So that's really the goal of our wallet. You know, instead of having to install a MetaMask, you can just click buy, and you can generate a Nifty wallet with just a click, because it's a smart contract wallet as opposed to a private key you manage. And then it's, you know, it's a custody solution, so you know, you can never lose it. If you lose your password, we like hold on to it for you. And then if you want to do something like post it for sale on OpenSea, we don't have Rarebit support yet, but you know, maybe soon.
Does everyone know what OpenSea is? Yeah. What's OpenSea? That lady at the back? It's the leading marketplace for NFTs. OpenSea, OPENSEA, and you're sort of in the same space as OpenSea, but a little bit.
Exactly right.
Almost,
now.
yeah. Just to unpack what Duncan was saying about wallets, what's super interesting is that if we left a building and bumped into someone on Howard Street and said, "Show me your digital wallet," it wouldn't even be like, "I don't have one." It would be, "WTF? What's a digital wallet?" Yeah. And so, at the highest level, people are not even realizing that they need a digital wallet. We just did a very interesting integration with one of our domain companies, where when you get a domain from us, it points at both your website and your wallet. Because we think eventually people are going to realize that their wallet is just as important as their website. And then to unpack what Duncan was saying, we're now seeing many different flavors of wallets. Wallets started for crypto, for fungible tokens, for identical units of value for currency. And now we're seeing NFT wallets. Yay, that's really great. That's what every attendee claimed at Consensus. That's what you're building in as a custodial NFT wallet, aren't you?
Yeah, so the thing that makes our solution so interesting is that we're building white label bespoke solutions for brands. So as opposed to it being about a Rarebits experience, when you go to a brand, you want it to be about their experience. And so we really quickly realized that being blockchain and crypto and all these things that are pretty scary to entertainment IP was not going to be a successful path. And instead, we make it all about something that people are familiar with and that they want to engage in. And then we, have embedded that technology behind it. And part of that solution is this custody solution where you can just log in, whether it's social auth or the website's own, OAuth. You log in, you can buy your digital goods, we store them for you on your behalf, and we associate them to your email address or whatever, user ID that you have with that brand. And so we can make that connection, and that makes it super easy for the user so that you don't need to make another account, you don't need to make another wallet, and then we can hold that for you on your behalf. It doesn't need to be so complicated and scary.
So what's interesting is the user doesn't even really know they have one unless they want to find out, and then you probably even give them the key to the wallet if they want it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We encourage that. If you want it, it's all yours. But if you don't want to mess with it, because we only estimate that a couple, like you said, is it going to be 10%? Probably fewer. How many people really want the keys to it? If it's easier, we'll just hold on to it, and then whenever they want it, they can come and claim them.
So we've had wallets for fungible currency. We've now got wallets for non-fungible tokens. We've got custodial wallets where you don't initially give them the keys, you sort of hold the key in custody for them. We even have burner wallets. At one of the events last week, when you checked in, you got a little card, and that card had a QR code to your burner wallet, and when you went to the food truck for lunch, there was an NFT in your burner wallet, which you would use to get your lunch. Now, I'll never see that wallet again. That's why it's called a burner wallet. So we're coming up with all these different wallets, and about a year ago,
Jodee, I have a question for you.
Please.
If you're minting all of those NFTs and putting them into wallets, what do you do with the whole stack of stuff that didn't get redeemed? It's kind of a waste of money, no?
Oh, that is such a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Tricky.
Mm-hmm.
So that is we are right at that moment. We just gave away 1,200 CryptoKitties to the 1,200 people who claimed their wallets. So the good news is that to get your CryptoKitty, you actually had to go through registration, and you had to claim the kitty via the wallet. So it's there. We are about to write to the people who have not done anything with their kitty yet. Kitties everyone who knows kitties knows that they need to breed. They like to breed. And so anyone who hasn't bred their cat yet, we're going to write to them and say, guess what? Did you know that you have a kitty in that digital wallet? Because we want them to use it. And then, of course, the next question is, well, what about the people who don't respond to that? What happens to the kitty? We don't want it to die in the wallet. And what we've realized is that next time we do this, we'll probably say, if you haven't used your kitty or done something with your kitty within 30 days, that kitty may actually find its way back to the kitty bank. And we're just talking about that. This is a sort of a consumer marketing thing. What do we do? And what is our right to extract something from your wallet once you've claimed it? That's another interesting question.
So I want to do a little technology plug here, which is that our technology allows us to mint on demand so that we don't have excess tokens and that we're not paying the cost to mint those tokens that people aren't using, engaging, or that they didn't even purchase. What if we make a bunch of stuff that it doesn't sell? You don't want to be sitting on top of that. And the only way that our technology can scale is actually if we're not paying for anything up front, or else it becomes an insurmountable cost when you're paying licensing fees and everything on top of it. So we are able to mint on demand, which basically turns the risk in that situation to zero. So next time for your event, let me know. I'll help you out.
Can I ask a mechanics question
Yeah.
on that? Okay, so is the user just looking at an image on a website, and then only when they click purchase is a token actually created on the back end? Is that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So if there's like a mystery pack mechanic, just like you saw here, what would happen is when they click purchase, we're actually minting it on demand.
That's really interesting. The story that I was going on to tell was, have you guys heard of Nouriel Roubini? Yeah, everyone's heard of Roubini. And Roubini's platform, we did some work for Roubini a few years ago, so I met him a few years ago when we were doing social network things and influence analytics. And I bumped into him a year ago, and he made this speech to me about how crypto was going to die, and you've probably all heard him say this. But one of the things that he says is, why would anyone want to have anything but US dollars? Which is in fact what that congressman from Orange County says too. Are you all aware that there's an Orange County congressman who is actually trying to introduce a law to ban all cryptocurrency? And his speech, what's his name, Brad? I'll think of it. So he says, similar to what Roubini was saying, which is, how crazy, when you go to McDonald's, you only want to pull out US dollars. It's just too confusing otherwise. But what if your wallet was intelligent? So I was making a little speech about wallets, and the last category of wallet is an intelligent wallet, which says, oh, Jodee, you want a hamburger? I know we're in McDonald's, and I'm going to use whatever currency buys me the best hamburger for the least amount of value exchange. And so I imagine a world where my wallet actually says, oh, you've got 100 different NFTs or 100 different currencies, and I'm going to use this particular NFT to get the McDonald's hamburger today, which is pretty cool, and we definitely have the technology to do that. Andy, can you tell us some of the things that you're seeing out in big business around wallets?
Around wallets. So I love the example you just gave, a smart wallet that has the ability to take advantage of thousands of, payment mechanisms and rails and assets. We believe that money, or more specifically, that value will be democratized, and you'll have, probably millions of different, units of value out there. And so I really believe in the example that you gave. Because we work with a lot of big enterprises, when we're working with NFTs, it's usually a physical product that's being tokenized, or a piece of real estate that's being tokenized. And so just, I guess the theme across all those is that they are real world goods that are being represented on a blockchain. And the reason you would want to do that in those contexts is because the ease of transferability, traceability, fractionalization, and my hope is that as a lot of these decentralized finance protocols mature, you will be able to lend, borrow, finance, securitize all of those tokenized assets as well, right? Because payments and commerce is sort of a horizontal across all of those vertical industries, right? Whether you're in healthcare or supply chain or
Can I just slow you down?
Yep, sure.
You talked about transferability and fractionalization and I think you used real estate as an example. What is it about blockchain and registering things on the blockchain that makes that transferability better than the systems that we've had for hundreds of years?
Sure. I always hesitate to bring up a real estate purchasing example in San Francisco because so many people here haven't purchased a home yet, myself included. Anywhere else in the country, that example would play really well. But one, it's very illiquid. You can't move it, right? I mean, it's specific to a particular piece of land, right? And that's what makes it unique. But it's also very hard to transfer because it's big and bulky and physical, right? And there's also the process around transferring that has a lot of red tape and a lot of just historical inefficiencies, right? A lot of middlemen are built into that. It's very paper-based. And so I think one of the reasons why a lot of real estate developers think that tokenization is something that's going to radically change how people buy and sell and interact with real estate assets is because it solves a lot of those challenges. I'm going to make one distinction, and it's that when you hear about companies like Elevated Returns or some of these others that are tokenizing big real estate projects, they're not tokenizing the title to the product, or sorry, to the asset. They're tokenizing the equity in a holding company that owns the asset. So you're one step removed from, I guess, true title, and it's because there are some regulatory challenges that you have to overcome before you get there. I'm sure we'll get there at some point, but right now it's just equity. So we're excited about that from a proof of concept standpoint. And I think that more established businesses and industries that operate in less regulated industries will gravitate towards this model. First, because it's a novelty, and because you get attention for your piece of property or your asset or your transaction. It's the same reason why marketplaces are, accepted Bitcoin in 2014, not because a lot of people were going to pay with it, but because they got a press release out of it, and it brought eyeballs to their brand. So that's, I would imagine, largely the motivation for a lot of these tokenization projects today, just because there's not a lot of liquidity for these assets, and the infrastructure that supports it is still relatively immature.
I think it comes back to what that gentleman said at the very beginning, which is this is all about registering things. And we have evolved over hundreds of years systems to register things that have baked in all sorts of inefficiencies. Whereas blockchain is awesome for registering things across global boundaries. And that's what excites me. And it's not just land titles, it's trademarks and patents and copyright and anything that we want to register. In fact, my sort of crazy dream, and I'll talk about this in a moment, is I'll ask you guys what you think this place will look like in 5 years. But one of my sort of crazy dreams is I can register on the blockchain my profile. Instead of you going to LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter to see who I am, I can create a Jodee NFT, right? I can give you a coin, which is my profile. That's really the beginning of expressing who I am by registering who I am as a series of NFTs on the blockchain. And we know we can do smart contracts in NFTs. What if I programmed into a smart contract that was sort of a Jodee AI, and you could ask it a question as well? So it started to actually be my personality. That's my in 5 years' time thing. I'm just putting you on notice. I'm going to ask you about 5 years' time. You think I'm crazy. But anyway, just to finish the wallet conversation, have you seen any interesting wallets out there in big business that you want to share with the guys?
I think it's one of the biggest gaps are what I would just call infrastructure wallets. It's not a category that I've seen a company focus on. And I think it's because it's a chicken and egg situation, right? You don't have the assets there to support the wallet, and those companies haven't developed the wallets yet because they don't need it, because they haven't moved their blockchain application to production yet. So one of the biggest gaps that we see.
Can I hop in with one? Yeah. I think the real challenge, and this is something like we debate a lot internally with any wallet, is custodial versus non-custodial. I mean, custodial, the way we think about it is the only blockchain applications that have real users are custodial, which are like Coinbase, Gemini, like cryptocurrency exchanges. But then they get hacked all the time, and it's hugely problematic because a blockchain hack is like no hack we've ever seen before. It's totally unrecoverable. And not to mention this new guidance that just came out. It specifically said if you're making a custodial wallet that stores cryptocurrency, then you are a money transmitter. For context, if like being a money transmitter is like a death blow for a startup, you have to register with every state individually. They take you a long time to grant a license. So basically, building a custodial wallet is extremely hard. a non-custodial wallet is extremely hard for people to use, and so we're caught in this like weird dichotomy where, you know, will people finally start using non-custodial wallets like MetaMask or Coinbase wallet, or will it take like custodial wallets? You know, will some sort of laws have to change? So I think that's a huge barrier that's really holding back wallets a
But what's
lot.
pretty cool is that you can flip a custodial wallet to be a non-custodial wallet by letting the user have the key.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool because you can start its life as a custodial wallet, and then you can give them the key when they ask for it.
So
Well, right. So just to add context, what we're talking about for everyone else is that the CFTC and it's actually FinCEN who just came out with some guidance that anyone who has a custodial wallet is a money transmitter, which is an absolute mess. But they really were thinking about fungible currency when they did that. And we think that you can argue that an NFT does not apply to that. I think you could also argue that an NFT does apply to it.
I mean, FinCEN has laid out guidance before about what a convertible virtual currency is. I think it's really tough to say that an NFT like meets the definition, and I don't think they would. I don't think that they would, if they looked at it and evaluated the issue, I think they would probably agree. They just haven't looked at it specifically yet.
See, an NFT is not like anything else we've ever seen. It's a completely new thing. Were you going to say something, Tara?
yeah, I was going to say, instead of an infrastructure wallet for NFTs, what if there was just a showcase wallet? Like, where's the Pinterest of NFTs? Because I think that people want something that's beautiful and allows them to showcase the things that are inside of it. So when we're not talking about currencies, which are fungible, you're talking about something that's actually something that the good itself is what you want to have and showcase and use, then I think that there's going to be a whole proliferation, and maybe you guys maybe someone here is even working on it, but like, what is that thing that I'm going to be using to show off, right? Because part of having ownership of something is sharing it, showing it off, having that status. And so I think that's a big gap right now as well.
To add another layer of confusion to this, have you guys heard of Decentraland? Right? Can someone tell everyone what Decentraland is? So you can buy land in this game, and it's all registered on the blockchain. And we've just built a shop that looks like a jewelry shop. And guess what we put inside the jewelry cabinets? Your NFTs, which is super fun because you can actually now put these NFT shops on the land that you bought in Decentraland and put the land to use.
Jodee, in the beta version launches in 30 days, right?
Yeah, we're working with them. Hopefully, our NFT jewelry stores will be part of it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Can you download Decentraland on the App Store and play it on your iPhone?
No way, Jose. No.
Huh. How's that going to scale?
You know what? Tara's moved me into the scaling part of this conversation. And you're absolutely right. We all need to be thinking about scaling. That's actually one of the things that I love about what you're doing is you're totally focused on scalability. And that sort of begs the issue of exchanges. We've talked a lot about wallets. We're now seeing a sort of evolution of exchanges. It was only 9 months ago that 0x, a San Francisco-based exchange platform, announced that it was supporting NFTs. We love it that exchanges are supporting NFTs because we think that it's extracting blockchain from the space that was in before, which was all about speculation and crypto. We don't think we're in the speculation or crypto space. We think we're in the space of registering digital assets. And for exchanges, but what was good for us, of course, was that these exchanges were created by the speculators for good reason. We think we can now bootstrap those exchanges to help us distribute NFTs. And last week at Consensus, eBay, famous San Francisco company, guess what? They're now listing digital collectibles. And I think that's going to help the space. Are you going to say something?
I thought one of the regulators had said that as long as you can put an NFT on an exchange and it can be bought and sold, then it's a security. Is that figured out one way or the other? Is that an issue? Because I'd imagine if all of a sudden you're like, hey, now, or like I'm going to distribute a whole bunch of NFTs to my early adopters, then you run afoul of security rules. I mean, I know this is a really complex, ever-changing landscape. What is the current situation right now of NFTs and security regulations?
What was great about the conferences in New York last week was the regulators were present at Consensus, and they were also present at a Coin Center dinner. And one of the commissioners, Hester Pierce, was incredibly open and transparent on the stage about the SEC and what they were thinking. And then there was an extraordinary presentation by one of the CFTC commissioner and Hester at a dinner where they were telling a story about frogs and toads, and one was being a frog and another was being a toad. And what was fantastic was there was extraordinary humility from both of them about how they feel that they haven't perhaps handled everything as perfectly as they could. And going forward, they would like to be much more proactive with industry. What I got out of all of that was, in the first instance, the SEC just wants to make sure that there's no fraud. And in the second instance, they want to make sure that these tokens don't represent things that are vaporware. Right? We know what vaporware means in San Francisco. And that's their highest cause. And then beneath that, there's all sorts of other things, but I don't think, from what I've heard, that NFTs, registering real digital assets, crosses the threshold that the SEC is interested in. Can I think of an NFT that's a security? I can't. I can't think of an NFT I haven't come across an NFT that I would call a security.
And I think the Canadian Securities Administration, because CryptoKitties is a Canadian company, I think they actually said publicly, like, a CryptoKitty is not a security. I think that was a year ago. I can't remember exactly when, but
yeah.
Something like a fractionalized ownership of a revenue stream, a royalty stream, for example, where you could conceive of that meeting the Howey test, which is that a third party creates the value in it, and you are holding it, and you can sell it, and it increases in value. Believe me, I'm not advocating for that, but I'm thinking that there is a scenario where an NFT could represent something that.
I think that's a great theoretical example.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for non-fractional NFTs, it's hard to imagine that anyone could be a security. But is there anything happening with respect to standards for fractionalization of NFTs?
I'm not aware of any standards. I know that people are experimenting. The ERC 1155 protocol allows you to actually have multiple different tokens under the one smart contract.
Which is kind of the opposite, right? That's bundling NFTs.
Yeah.
It seems to me that part of it is that when you buy an NFT, there is some valuable thing that you have fulfillment rights to, right, when you buy it. But as opposed to something being pure respected. But it's not visible. It's not visible. Right? And you can buy an NFT which gives you rights to the 2020 vintage Chevrolet Lumber. I'm listening. 50 cases.
You're good.
You know what I mean? So it's a little bit different than
Yeah.
something which is entirely speculative. I think probably they have more
I think that's really well said. In fact, I should invite you to come and join us. Thank you. So we talked about wallets, we talked about exchanges. Do we want to talk about sort of our vision for what things will look like in 5 years' time? Tara, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've kind of made the flavor and my vantage point pretty obvious. Mine's all about consumer mass market, super scalable, super friendly. And so what I think, and my vision, is that in the next 5 years, that even people literally like my, mom is using it without knowing. That she's like collecting, maybe it's not CryptoKitties, maybe it's something else related to something that she likes, but she's doing it in her phone. And I know that, in that $100 billion digital goods economy, that the money that people are spending, it's not, just vaporware. To your point, like there's a lot of vaporware. There's $100 billion that people are spending every year on these digital goods in app. Those are not, tokens for something that's physical that you can redeem. These are digital goods that people already understand are just digital goods. And so what happens if you open up that economy and you can take those digital goods, you can exit a system? What happens if you turn your time and your investment into something that is more fluid and liquid? And then people just experience the benefits of that, and they don't necessarily need to know. Like, I don't know the technology that powers, my iPhone. I'm not an engineer. I know blockchain, but maybe there's a world in which I don't need to in order to actually access all the benefits of, the digital goods that I like and that I want to interact with. So for me, I think it's just, maybe this isn't called Crypto Mondays, right? Yeah, I don't necessarily know that in 5 years from now, I could be doing exactly what I'm doing and not have to mention crypto at all.
Andy.
Because we are not, industry specific, my vision is going to be a little more broad, and we certainly see the proliferation of digital assets. The barrier to entry, right, with token standards, is virtually zero now, and it will only get easier. And every platform will offer something like that. And so now I guess the question is, what I try and think about is what asset classes are going to be tokenized, right? What unique items, A, lend themselves to being tokenized, but two, have a low barrier to entry. And so assets that aren't very heavily regulated, right? So commercial items, merchandise, most collectibles, things like that. They don't have a regulatory regime that makes it hard to enter, right, and enter that market. And so I think that's the low-hanging fruit for me.
Collectibles that aren't already registered in some way.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And then from a, I guess, so that's my vision for assets. But I think it certainly extends to more regulated asset classes as well. You just have to, deal with more, right? It costs more money to get those assets onto a blockchain. From an infrastructure standpoint, I think wallets will also proliferate and get better. You will have browser wallets. You'll have every phone manufactured in 5 years will have a wallet on it.
That was news last week or the week before, wasn't it?
Yep,
Samsung 5G Galaxy S10 has a wallet with it now, a digital wallet.
Mm-hmm. So wallets will certainly proliferate. And some of them will hold very valuable assets. Those will probably be controlled by a trusted party, right? Like an exchange or a custodian. And then you'll have wallets for assets that are for lower dollar items that require a different security profile. And so I think you'll have a number of these things that you either have full control over or partial control over. And some you'll access once a year, some you'll access every day perhaps, right? So I'll stop there. I certainly have other thoughts and happy to share afterwards. But
Duncan?
Yeah, I think the state of the ecosystem is strong. I think there's a lot of exciting stuff happening around games and collectibles. I love this, Cheese Wizards. It was CryptoKitties' new game. It's like a battle royale where half the money spent on the game goes to the person who wins the contest. I think we might see an explosion of stuff like that because blockchain games are perfectly suited to have this huge cash prize. It's like built into the game in a way that it just simply isn't for others. And I think Gods Unchained too, actually. 10% of the card sales go to whoever wins their first Gods Unchained tournament when they launch it. Yeah, so I'm really excited about games and collectibles. I think I love what we're doing at Nifty Gateway, obviously. I think like we're really going to help unlock, valuable like game objects and collectibles in the near future, and like hopefully make them a lot more accessible. My goal, my dream, like what I think would be, what I think the like grand prize for NFTs is like a virtual world where people make real money, and people actually. I mean, I have friends who sit around playing FIFA all day. They level up these cards, and then they make all this like in-game FIFA money, and it's like, well, what a waste of time,
But that should be transferable to other games, right?
Yeah, it should be. So I
I
think.
agree.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're building.
Yeah. I think five. I'm sorry. Yeah. 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 It's enormous. Yeah. And yeah, and all these virtual worlds are like proliferating. So I mean, I think we're literally going to see economic activity happening in virtual worlds, and people will be employed by virtual worlds, not as like professional esports gamers, but as people who literally, wake up, play the game, earn the money, like, because like labor is its own sort of proof of work, I guess. And so we'll have, that's my 5-year, like, that's my audacious vision. I don't know if it'll happen in 5 years or 10 years, but I think it'll happen within our lifetimes. And so that's what I'm most excited for.
I think adding to that, NFTs will unlock silos because of the definition that we started the meeting about. If you can register your asset on something that is ubiquitous and immutable, that means that the game that has a sword in it that I won isn't just a silo anymore for me. It's a place where I can win things and then move them over to other games or other platforms. And so the assets that I create in proprietary platforms should be transportable to other platforms if they are registered on the blockchain. That's one of the big ideas for me. And the other big idea for me is about identity. I think that we are all feeling that our identity is expressed through Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram right now, at least online. And that doesn't make me feel completely comfortable. And I'd love to feel that my identity is within my control. And if I can move my identity into an NFT that I control. And one of my dreams is I get home at night and one of my NFTs says to me, "Hey Jodee, I was just scanning the web all day while you were at work, and I found 5 companies that were using your personal data. And I spoke to them, and I've collected $5 for you." So my little NFT has a smart contract which goes around finding my data that's being used in an unauthorized way, which is really my data is my identity. So my NFT is not just my identity, but my NFT is an identity that is outward looking. That's one of my 5-year dreams.
Is it okay if I ask a question and piggyback off something you mentioned there? You talked about platforms and breaking down silos. I've heard a concept talked about recently where the asset, because it is on a most likely an open platform, that the asset also becomes the platform. And I'm curious if anyone has any thoughts. I guess any of the panelists or anyone in the audience have any thoughts on what that future looks like, right? Just like you have people building new experiences for a CryptoKitty or for a Cheese Wizard, perhaps, or maybe for some of the cool kind of cult merchandise that you were talking about.
So that is such an interesting concept. So what you're really saying is that the asset that's on the blockchain in a platform can actually become the platform. An example of that is right now you can take a CryptoKitty and put it on our NFT platform and add social actions to it. So your kitty actually can become a little mini network or a little mini platform of its own, because the kitty goes around gathering comments and likes and social actions. And I said to, when I was speaking at Consensus last week, I said to the audience, one of the things that I love is crispy bacon. And I was going to do something crazy, and I was going to give a crispy bacon NFT to everyone in the audience. And I thought, well, actually, my Jewish mother-in-law would get upset with me for doing that. particularly in New York. So I didn't do it, but I told them I was going to do it. And then I said to the audience, well, what goes with crispy bacon? And luckily someone said eggs. So I said to the audience, what if I gave you a crispy bacon NFT and then I gave you a eggs NFT, and what would happen when you brought the two of them together? You get a voucher to the Hilton buffet for breakfast. Right, so it's sort of your point, Andy, is that these NFTs can actually have a life of their own and be their own platform. In the crazy bacon and eggs example I'm giving you, they're relating to each other and unlocking something of value, which is the yummy buffet breakfast at the Hilton. Wild and crazy.
We did that, actually. Not a buffet, but we did a campaign with Neopets, for anyone that's knows that brand. We did this Neopets Crypto Quest, where you're collecting Crypto Quest cards, and if you got enough of these costumes, you would unlock the pet, and it's like full regalia, the full costume, and then if you flip the card over, there was a scratcher that you could scratch for an in-game reward in Neopets. So, and what happens is we basically took that token and we marked it as redeemed. And so we had two states essentially, like scratched or unscratched. And then we could also mark if it was used to redeem it. So if you wanted, you could keep your bacon and your eggs in your wallet, but it would just say that it had been redeemed, or else you could continue to redeem it for more Hilton.
So the NFTs status changes.
Right.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think we're sort of getting to the end of our things. Did you have I have one more thing I want to talk about. Go ahead. Did you have a question? Yeah. There's just one last thing that I'd like to share with you all, which is about this concept of digital scarcity. One of the things that's said in this industry is that an NFT allows you to register an asset, a virtual asset, and by registering it, you are creating some scarcity. What interests me about that, of course, is tick. It's better than copyright because it's much clearer what you're doing. But I actually think that digital goods have a completely different supply and demand curve to physical goods when it comes to scarcity and value. And the example I like to give is likes. Likes are infinite. In one sense, they're a digital asset. I have an infinite number of likes in my breast. But if I give a like to this gentleman here in Avery, if I gave Avery a like at the end because of the question, he would feel recognized. And in that sense, I think this ability that we have now to actually register digital assets is in parallel with the way we use love and affection, and we've never been able to measure value in a tangible way. And it reminded me when my kids were growing up, and one of my daughters would say, I'd say, good night kiss, one, and the other one would say, no, there are no kisses left in my kiss box. And it's because she was managing her kisses like they were physical assets, but the other one was not. But Daddy would love the kiss no matter what. And that's a really, really interesting concept for me that I think still has to play out, that the supply and demand and value curve for digital assets is quite different. Anyway, I don't know what more to say about that. Maybe we can talk about that in a couple of years' time. Did anyone want to add anything on the panel before we go to questions?
Yes, I'll just say one thing about that, which is that I think that the digital assets are scarce, just like physical assets are scarce. If a fashion designer wanted to make 2 million bags instead of 200, they could, but they made a choice not to. Same thing with digital assets. We can make that choice. When we say we're only minting 200 goods, that's because we made that choice. And so I think that there's a lot of responsibility too when you make that choice. A high-end designer doesn't make 2 million because they don't want everyone to have it. And so I think scarcity in and of itself is more about choice and the idea of creating goods of a certain value and prestige, and you can always go downstream, but it's harder to go upstream. So if you make $1 million and they're still sitting there on the shelves, it doesn't look so good.
But
So-
I think my point was that I agree with that, but I also think depending on who is receiving that digital asset, it may not matter whether there's 1 million or 100 of them.
Maybe.
That was the big idea.
Well, how valuable is that like, Jodee, if you have an infinite number of them?
But that's exactly the point, that I do have an infinite number of them.
Mm-hmm.
I can register as many of them as I want. But if you want one of those, if you would like in the example that I gave before, or maybe it's a recommendation on LinkedIn, I mean, that's a digital asset too. I have infinite number of recommendations that I can give out, but if I give it to someone who actually values it, then it's in the eyes of the beholder. And I think digital assets are much more in the eyes of the beholder, the value algorithm. You're looking at me like I'm wild.
Well, I love playing devil's advocate. You know, so if I know you have an infinite number of them, you are more inclined to pass them out if you have more of them. If you have a limited number of them, you're going to be much more thoughtful about how you issue those, generally speaking.
I don't think it's binary. I certainly agree with you that if you know there's less, then you may think it has more value. But I don't think that's the most important driver.
So
when it
I
comes-
would say if your, likes or kisses or whatever are only available on the primary market and they're unlimited, then you're not going to fuel secondary market of people trading and actually bartering for your likes. And so what I'm trying to do is if I sell something primary through, let's say, IAP or credit card or whatever, and I want people to buy and sell and trade these on secondary markets, right? Then I want there to be scarcity so that we can fuel this this marketplace. And if there's unlimited number, then you don't get the commerce between people.
But here's the thing, with digital assets, we can trace provenance much more clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And so if Kim Kardashian gave you something, and I gave you something, right? But it's exactly the same something, and maybe there's an infinite number of them. Because Kim gave you something, that has more value to you. And so the point I'm making is that there are so many other attributes that we can attach to digital assets that we can't attach to physical goods that create value in the eyes of the receiver.
So it sounds like it's almost the difference between sentimental value and monetary value. We could.
Well, I think I'm just trying to use an example of that highlights the difference between the limitations, privileges, and attributes that we can attach to a digital asset compared to those that we can attach to a physical asset.
So I guess my question would be, if you have an unlimited number of them, and there is no intention or expectation that they're going to hold a monetary value and be traded on a secondary market, right, or participate in commerce, then why tokenize it in the first place?
Because of the very first conversation we had, which is tokenization registers it and puts it into a platform that allows you to transfer it easily with as little friction as you could imagine.
Yeah, but if no one's going to buy it, then you just wasted minting all those things that no one's going to want to buy. If people aren't going to spend money, it costs money to mint it onto the blockchain.
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
I think we'll continue this conversation at dinner. Anyway, you've been a fantastic audience, and I'd love to open this up a bit more for questions. I think you had a question over there.
Yeah, we have time for questions, so just wave at me and I'll come to you.
So for the gentleman who created the wallet is a public and a private key pair, right? So whoever holds the private key holds access to the funds. Are you concerned about the private key being hacked?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's something that anyone who manages private keys should be concerned about it. If you're not concerned about it, then then you don't know enough about the problem. I think from a cybersecurity perspective, I think private keys are sort of a unique challenge. We've never encountered like the permissionlessness means that if you lose them, they're gone forever. And I think this also impacts scaling in an important, in an interesting way, because as you mentioned, a wallet is a public-private key pairing. You have to secure each private key, and you have to really protect it. So if you're going to custody 1 million private keys, that becomes very, very difficult. So yeah, we are very concerned. The Nifty wallet is actually a smart contract wallet. So instead of a public-private key pairing, it's a piece of code deployed to the blockchain. So we can secure each deployed instance using a private key that we hold, and then we can use that private key to secure thousands of instances. So instead of having to protect thousands of private keys, we only have to protect 10 or 20, if that makes sense. But
Can you unpack that a little bit? Sorry.
sure.
I got lost too.
Okay, yeah. So a wallet usually refers to a public-private key pairing. A private key it's literally a string of characters. You run it through a hash function, and then that becomes the public address. And if you get the original string of characters, then you can access anything that public address owns. The other option, and this is what we did, you can deploy a piece of code to the Ethereum blockchain. It's called a smart contract. That's the same way like CryptoKitties is based on a smart contract, and you can have that smart contract call transactions instead of using a public-private key pairing to call transactions. So the reason that we chose to do that is because we can secure that smart contract with just a few private keys. We can use a small number of private keys to secure thousands of smart contracts, as opposed to having a different public-private key pairing for each individual user. So yeah, the security benefits are enormous, because if we had 1 million users and we had to secure 1 million private keys, I mean, your options are limited. The gold standard is to put them on an HSM, but HSMs are they get very expensive very quickly. So you can't put 1 million keys on an HSM, in a cost-effective way.
What's an HSM?
An HSM is a hardware secure module. It's like the most secure way to store any information. It's how the most sensitive information in the world is stored. It's physically, they're usually stored in a physical location that's actually guarded by people. They have backups, they're tamper-proof, so if someone tries to hack them, they get automatically cleared. So, but yes, it's a major concern. It's one of the biggest challenges that we deal with, and one of the biggest challenges that the entire industry deals with.
Andy, did you want to jump in, Andy? I think, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think this might be for Andy. I was downstairs checking people in, so I might have missed some things. I can wrap my mind around digital assets. I can't wait to bring Doom's BFG into Mario Kart. It's going to be awesome. But with physical assets like property, I can't wrap my like the properties of it being immutable. So I sell my house to you, or the land to you. We do it through a contract. Boom, you're now the owner, and I just don't give you the keys. F you, bro. At some point, we're going to a courthouse. At which point, sort of the benefits of it being decentralized, the benefits of being immutable are sort of washed away, where it's well, we have to come to the courthouse anyway. That's having drunk talks with my wife. That's where I start to get I can't exactly explain how it works. Can you touch on that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you understand how it works. You just presented a very obvious problem when you are trying to introduce digitally native technology to a very sort of physical process, right? It's very similar to how a lot of big companies are trying to use blockchain, right? They're trying to take this really cutting edge technology and dump it into a really outdated value chain and business process, right? It's going to be clunky. Digitally native assets require digitally native applications, and that's where you get the perfect fit, right? Otherwise, it's kind of a square peg in a round hole. I agree with you, and that's why the actual title hasn't been tokenized yet. That's why I think a lot of assets are going to be harder to bring on board for those reasons, and why collectibles and merchandise and things that are already bought and sold online are so much easier to onboard into this ecosystem. There's just less friction.
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, mortgage-backed securities. Yeah.
I think there was another. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So I've been in crypto for a long time, and I'm very
Hey,
excited.
Sarah.
Hi. I'm very excited for this whole movement, but I'm quite new to it. So forgive me if this is like silly, but I asked these questions to Vitalik before they launched the chain, and so I'm very good at asking simple questions. One thing is there a current marketplace that pairs artists with developers to create assets?
That's a great question. There's a game called Neon District that has a whole team of artists who are working with their developers to create all sorts of really interesting characters in the game. One of the things that we want to do is allow people to create NFTs on our platform that can then be used in the Neon District game. And the complexity of that is we have to give you guidelines as to what sort of template, NFT template you can use that is then useful in the game. And we had a meeting with Neon District about that last week, and we're coming up with templates that we can include in our platform that will give you guidance about useful NFTs to be played in-game.
There are like, not developers, but they allow you to like, allow artists to upload an image and create like a, you know, an NFT for them, a known origin, so rare, Maker's Place. Those are just the first three. I'm sure I'm forgetting a few. Pixura, yeah.
It's a great question.
And then my other question is the showcase part, which is something that I've been really looking at, because it seems like the abstraction into the real world, which doesn't create that like scary tech side, which is, can you abstract a showcase which will show ERC 721 protocols and DGood protocols on EOS, so that you can kind of show all of the digital goods, maybe that you collected through cryptocurrency platforms, or even through like the NFL that just did the thing. So I'm just trying to figure out, is that already in existence? And is it possible to pull from all of those smart contracts into one showcase?
So it's possible, and there's nothing yet that's really beautiful or that's done it well or that I would say is the idea. So you should go build that. But yeah, I think that should happen and will happen. And it's a matter of time, because once people have enough things that they want to show off, then people are going to start building technologies to support that. But I think that all comes downstream, and we need to populate the marketplace. We need to populate the NFT ecosystem with stuff people want. And one of the reasons why Rarebits has moved away from more of this kind of rare art maker style is that it's not immediately covetable. You don't know this person from New York that just uploaded an image and says they only made one of one. I mean, it's just not a known entity. And you can already start with brands and goods that people love. I mean, there's a $100 billion app store ecosystem for digital goods. Like, it's right there. Like, there's a corollary. We understand that people want digital goods and, with brands that they know. And so you can find a way to introduce those in a way that you don't need necessarily to have unknown goods. You don't need to have just rare art by someone. Just because it's rare doesn't mean that it's valuable. And so I think once you introduce into the ecosystem things that people love, branded goods, then you'll want to show those off. And so I think hopefully all of these secondary utility apps will start to come to the surface once people have a lot of things that they want to use and share and show off.
I think we're going to wrap it up now. Is there one more question?
Yeah, you're making a lot of sense, and I've been dealing with some people who have big league intellectual property, and I'm just curious from your perspective, and you're going in to try to get them on board for a program. What's the objection handling you have to engage in? I can We can trade stories, but I'm curious
Yeah.
what your experience is.
We should definitely trade some stories. But I mean, most people, the first 30 minutes of my conversation is a lot of education because they're not the same people that are in this room. They're very different. They're just, you know, they're exposed to different things. And so it's a lot of scary. Blockchain crypto can be very scary. I'm getting the like, so let's sidebar this after. Yeah.
Andy, was there one more?
Yeah, one last question.
Okay.
This can be anyone, but I was thinking, Tara, I'm actually advising Verse, which is a virtual universe that's going to simulate the real world. And we're just putting 3D modelers together with brands and creating our shop. So it's touching on a lot of the aspects we talked about. And since we have the experts here, I was wondering, one, what branded goods have you found to be popular that I should maybe attack first? And second of all, what's the sweet spot in terms of the number? We want a secondary market, but we want to put it in a market. Is it 100? It is 1,000? You know, that's a question of today. I mean, in the future, we can always mint more. But right now, kind of what's that sweet spot number you're seeing that creates that scarcity that increases the value of these goods on the secondary market?
Yeah, so the product that I'm really focused on right now, which will be more mobile friendly, has not launched yet. So I can't tell you which products we're selling the most of. And so that I don't know. And all I would say is that in terms of what it should be, like you can look to two things. One, the physical market. What are people already buying in physical goods and brands that they already like? Start there. And then two, look in the digital space. What is it that people want to engage with? Is it trading cards? Is it stickers? What is it? And then, you know, find what that Venn diagram overlap is that you can sell in your product.
Thank you.
It depends. Is there a loot table? Are you buying it one for one? Is it mystery packs? We'll talk after this. Yeah, yeah. Jodee has unlimited kisses. You should put those in your shop.
We'll talk about that later. Can I just say thank you very much to Andy for organizing this? Yep. And is there anyone here from Oric? Because I feel like we're using Oric space. So thank you very much, Oric. And the other thing I'd like to say is that I always enjoy speaking to a San Francisco audience because we always get such great questions and great engagement. And I've gotten a lot out of this evening as well. So thank you very much for being a great audience.
So not to be a horrible hack shill, but our next event is 6/17. It'll be on stablecoins. We got Coinbase, MakerDAO, Stably, and Ampleforth rocking the house. I'll be there. It's going to be awesome. So get your tickets now.